Once upon a time, Friday night meant just one thing. Head over to Blockbuster Video to wander the aisles and grab a VHS or DVD for a movie night, and maybe even a Nintendo game. At its peak, Blockbuster had 9,000 stores worldwide and was worth billions. And then, almost overnight, it collapsed. By 2010, the giant that once dominated Friday nights was filing for bankruptcy. And it was all because of one big mistake. So here's my question for you. Do you miss Blockbuster? And do you think there's any way the media rental business could still work somehow today? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I personally miss Blockbuster, actually. It was so much fun to go with friends and pick out a movie, but I don't know if it could work today, at least at scale. And by the way, you can still go to Blockbusters. Stick around to find out where. Blockbuster started in 1985, founded by David Cook in Dallas, Texas. So what made it different? Scale. Back then, there were some local video rental shops that had a couple hundred titles, but Blockbuster had thousands of tapes, neatly organized. And they used a computer system to track rentals. Game changing. And the model worked insanely well. By the 90s, Blockbuster wasn't just a video store. It was a cultural phenomena. Families made it a ritual. Celebrities did commercials encouraging us to make it a Blockbuster night. But the cracks started to show. And one big thing people hated were late return fees, which were actually a big chunk of Blockbuster's profits. They basically got rich on people's laziness. But new competitors like Redbox with their $1 rental kiosks and Netflix with its DVD by mail subscription were starting to steal some of the market share. And the defining moment that sealed Blockbuster's fate happened in the year 2000. Reed Hastings and Mark Rudolph, the founders of Netflix, flew to Blockbuster's Dallas headquarters to meet John Antioco, the CEO of Blockbuster, and his team, and offered to sell Netflix for $50 million. After that offer was made, the meeting went downhill, and the CEO of Blockbuster laughed them out of the room. They mocked Netflix as a fringe idea. But as we all know, Netflix had the last laugh. Less than a decade later, Netflix was thriving, and just like that, poof, Blockbuster was gone. And today, Netflix is not worth $50 million. It's worth $500 billion. Now, before we get to the analysis part, here's a fun fact. Blockbuster once tried to launch its own streaming service in partnership with Enron. Yes, that Enron. But the deal fell apart within a year, and Netflix ended up owning the streaming future. All right, let's dive into my GSE, or as I call it, Jesse analysis, where we go over the goal, the strategy, and the execution to see exactly where things went wrong. So first, the goal. And with this, we ask if their goal was possible. Blockbuster's goal was clear: be the world's #1 home entertainment brand beyond the year 2000. This was a bold dream, and it was definitely possible because they were in the driver's seat with the biggest video rental chain in the world. So expansion seemed logical. Coming into the turn of the millennium, Blockbuster was pulling in $6 billion a year. This was a no-brainer. They already had their position at the top, and they just wanted to continue to be king of the hill, and had the money and business agility to do it. So bottom line, it was a bold dream and very doable. Next, we go to the strategy and use the tried and true SWOT analysis, where we look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is where we see Blockbuster's downfall. Blockbuster's strategy was to expand internationally with stores, and lean into brand recognition, focusing on marketing. So their strengths, they had a huge physical presence. People did love Blockbuster, so there was strong brand loyalty. And they also had existing partnerships with Hollywood studios. Sounds like a pretty solid moat, if you ask me. But what about the weaknesses? Profits were tied significantly to late fees, which people didn't like. And number two, the in-store experience, although fun, it was still inconvenient compared to just paying for streaming services through subscription. So that's clearly a weakness. And three, operating costs for thousands of stores was high. And what about the opportunities? Well, we know obviously the internet, digital distribution, and video streaming was a big opportunity. And before that, you had DVD subscription services, which is originally what Netflix was doing, which could have easily been bought out, but never happened. As for threats, you had Redbox kiosks undercutting price, but that was the least of their worries. The real threat was Netflix, which again introduced the subscription model to get movies by physical delivery and later online streaming. So to recap, Blockbuster's strategy was fragile. Their strengths couldn't outweigh their weaknesses. Once the internet changed consumer expectations, and they ignored the opportunities. Instead of adapting, they played defense and protected old revenue streams, but before they could adapt, the threats crushed them. Netflix crushed them. Finally, we have to analyze the execution of their strategy. Execution is where Blockbuster's story unravels. For me, the three cornerstones of execution are PhD, passion, good habits, and discipline. And you need all three. In Blockbuster's case, they had passion and consistency in their habits, but some of their habits were bad, and they lacked discipline. With respect to passion, well, they obviously had passion for dominating the rental market, but not for innovation. So the passion was there, but misdirected. And with respect to habits, they stuck to old habits like late fee, dependency, and customers hated that. And as for discipline, this one is key. Blockbuster lacked discipline in pivoting. This is why so many giants of the past have died. Sure, they tried experimenting with subscriptions and streaming eventually, but they did it half-heartedly, always protecting their store-based revenue. But they ignored the writing on the wall. So to recap, Blockbuster executed the wrong strategy. They ignored their blind spots, and they clung to the past. And speaking of the past, I promised at the start I'd show you where you can still get your Blockbuster nostalgia fix. Believe it or not, the last Blockbuster in the world is in Bend, Oregon. And according to the online reviews, it's absolutely beloved. One more chance to make it a Blockbuster night, I guess. What's the big lesson? What's the takeaway? Blockbuster failed because it confused being big with being untouchable. The goal was bold, but blinded by overconfidence. The strategy leaned too much on stores and late fees. The execution refused to adapt fast enough to digital change. Innovation doesn't care how big you are. If you stop evolving, you stop existing. But still, I can't help but look back fondly at those days of visiting the local Blockbuster, wandering the aisles, picking out a movie, maybe some popcorn. But I'll leave you with this question. Do you think convenience always wins, even if it means losing special experiences like Friday nights at Blockbuster? I think 5,000 five-star reviews for the last Blockbuster means that maybe there is room for some desirable inconvenience. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. If you've got goals, you want inspiration, and you're curious about what makes the difference between success and failure, hit the subscribe button. That way, you won't miss the next Jesse analysis, or upside scoop interview. Each one could give you a lesson that helps with your journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.